Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
I assume Tom.
Everybody, please forgive me from now, as Kavi has done so ahead of time, but I'm going to try to pronounce her name properly. Kavi Ramachandran Ladnier.
Kavi Ramachandran Ladnier.
Ladnier.
Very close. Ladnier.
See, I got the Indian names right. It's the American one that I botched.
Very good. Very good try.
Thank you. You know, so at least we got the South Asian names correct. The American ones, everybody else, you know, no one's going to be mad at me for it. Yeah. But you are in NCIS Los Angeles. You are in the show The Sex Lives of College Girls. You're also in the movie East Bay. You've been on Fairly Odd Parents, Fairly Odder on Paramount Plus from Nickelodeon. You are just all over the place. How is somebody so petite so busy?
Oh, I didn't realize petite had anything to do with it, but
like, are you just fitting yourself into everything and you're like, I'm going to find a way to make it through?
You know what? I have been doing this for decades, and so I love it, and I love, you know, as an actor, getting to do varied roles. You know, it's a joy, it's a dream. You know, we love to be able to just embody and inhabit different characters, and so I feel really blessed. You know, I've just had a lot of great opportunities, and you know, and the last couple of years have been exceptionally good. You know, and just with some really high level projects and characters that, you know, I've really, really enjoyed playing. And I made my own film last year as well. It's called Now and Never, and I play 5 different characters in that film. And so, you know, in 2021, I played 9 different characters in total between TV and film, and they were all different. So, you know, it's just, I mean, is it exhausting? Of course, but, you know, I think doing anything we love, you know, takes effort and hard work, and, you know, and I'm here for it.
You're just taking a page out of Eddie Murphy's book. He's like, you know what? I don't want anybody else to get a paycheck. I'm going to do all 19 clumps in The Nutty Professor, and here you are.
Well, that paycheck is non-existent because it was a short film that I created. But yes, in theory, that would be, I mean, you know, I've actually played multiple characters on stage a few times in New York and here in LA. And so it's something I actually really love, you know, being able to do. And so when I read the script for the film, when I read the short play that Now and Never, I just knew that this was supposed to be a film, and it deals with mental health, and these different characters are all aspects of herself. So it made sense that it would be one actor doing it. And because I love doing that, you know, it was a joy. So now I'd love to be able to do it even on a bigger, you know, level, like, you know, like Stephanie Hugh and, like, you know, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, I was so mesmerized by her many performances, you know, but that's the dream.
Well, you know, the dream's coming true with as busy as you are.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, super grateful. You know, it's been a really, you know, coming out of the pandemic. I mean, coming out of lockdown, we're still in the pandemic, but coming in a lockdown and stuff, it's been such a gift, you know, I'm so grateful to have had these opportunities. I have an incredible team that, you know, has gotten me out on some, you know, great auditions, and then getting to work with, like, awesome people.
Well, the lockdowns did not help with the mental health crisis whatsoever, and it's unlocked quite a bit of mental health for people, as we've seen on Twitter and various other social media platforms. So it's good that it's being addressed at this point. Absolutely. And I think, you know, with mental health, it's everyone, you know, is dealing with it. It's not something unique to any one person or culture or any of that stuff. And I think the gift of the pandemic is that maybe we have a little more empathy for one another and realize that we're not different, you know, that because loneliness hit us even when we were with people, you know, the not being able to go out and all of that stuff really, you know, worked on everyone. And yeah, so it's, you know, I think mental health has always been put in under different, especially, you know, in my culture, but not just in South Asian culture, and lots of in here, even in, you know, in American culture, it's just, you know, it's put in
for certain people have to deal with this, or, you know, you don't talk about it and things like that. And I talk about it freely. I think it's really, really important. My therapist, one of my favorite people, you know, it's just, and it's not about, I think if we could teach people that it's not about waiting until you need help, but like taking care of yourself, you know, preventative, keeping yourself healthy and happy and feeling like you can acknowledge your feelings and all of these things. I think, you know, so hopefully as a culture, as a world culture, but, you know, specifically in this country, people will start doing that, you know, more and more. Makes us realize we're more alike than we are different.
Right. I think, well, growing up, you know, I used to hear, especially being from Middle Eastern culture, therapy's for white people. They're the ones that have created their own problems, and that's why they need therapy. The rest of us just survive and we move forward. So
Yeah,
it's starting to open up in other communities.
Absolutely. And it doesn't serve us to not talk about it. You know, it's just, as we can see with all the recent happenings in the world.
Yeah, well, you know, the world is a very interesting place and very dark times. And I think people need to actually just be polite to each other rather than screaming at each other. Way. Especially in 240 characters.
Yeah, I never really got into Twitter. I never really understood it. I couldn't like quite, and I'm really glad now that I didn't, like, it wasn't, you know, I didn't have to extra, you know, like, oh, I'm still on, but I'm not on really.
I just don't have the patience to argue with strangers.
Honestly, me either. I mean, you know, I think we're allowed to have our opinions and stand for what, you know, I use my voice. I'm not afraid to use it. And I will speak to someone. I will, you know, go back and forth if I have to in terms of having a conversation. But the moment it becomes ugly or a debate, I'm not interested. I don't, you know, I know how I feel, and I feel strong in my ability to listen. But again, that's self-care to say that I don't need to have the last word.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people in the Middle East have not learned yet.
Yeah.
You know, we definitely like to argue with each other about insequential things. And I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me for it, but whatever, you know.
It's important to know how we are, you know, and there's also lots of good things. So.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention, in the last couple of years, South Asian performers, actors, filmmakers have come into their own into the Western world. It's no longer you're just the IT performer, you're just the housewife with 19 kids, you run a convenience store, you own the restaurant. You know, Indian, Pakistani, and people from Bangladesh are being recognized in the industry, which is something that's refreshing because it didn't feel forced. It just automatically evolved. Is that something that you've noticed?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I've been in this industry for over 28 years, working as a professional back in a time where there was no one really that looked like me on screen. So it is very refreshing. It didn't just happen. It didn't just evolve. I mean, it's a lot of us working, using our voices, stepping into positions of, you know, a little bit more power, you know, to kind of create this momentum. And at a time where I think the world was ready for it, you know, it's, we're not there yet, but we should, you know, be grateful, not just grateful, but be excited about the changes that are moving forward, because, you know, you do see South Asians, Manasa in general, you know, in just all over the industry, you know, but it's interesting having done it for so long, because, you know, the same struggles that you have in this industry, you have throughout society. You know, it's like when someone is used to getting a lot and it starts to become more even, it's not even. I mean, if we're talking about it, like, it's still 90% is going to white actors and creatives, and the rest is kind of being divvied out. You know, maybe not that high, but it's pretty close, maybe high in the low 80s. But when you're used to getting everything and it starts to feel like others are getting opportunities, you feel like you're losing out. And so I've had those conversations with actors where you're just like, that's not how this works, you know. And I get it, you know. It's like if actors are used to always being seen for something, and then they're, you know, and now it's being opened up to people of color and, you know, and different ethnicities and stuff. I mean, I get that's how that can feel, but it's just not an accurate depiction. You know, we're not, and it might take a minute. It might take a minute to not feel that way, but we're not going anywhere, you know, and we're stepping into, you know, we're stepping behind the camera in the writer's room, creating our own production companies, you know, and showing up, you know, on the canvas. And so I'm thrilled. I mean, I'm excited that I stuck around this long, you know, that I didn't give up and that I'm still here, not just being a part of it, but really contributing to it.
You know, one thing I've noticed is that when I had spoken with people on the other side of it, and they're like, well, there's a burgeoning film industry, or there's a huge film industry in India, there's a huge film industry in China, there's a film industry in the Middle East. So why are you talking about representation when there is representation? But then we also forget that a lot of us were either born here or migrated here. So that industry doesn't necessarily represent us, while also the Western industry doesn't represent us. We have one foot here, 1 foot there.
Absolutely. I mean, I was born in India, but I came here when I was 8 months old. And and I'm from South India, so I didn't grow up learning Hindi. So my language is Malayalam. And so I'm actually I don't really know a lot about the Hindi, you know, Bollywood. I know some of the big names and I know the big names, and I've watched some of the big films and stuff like that, but I'm reading subtitles along with everyone else. And even within that, you know, people just assume that you know Hindi. But you know, I'm American, you know, I'm Indian and I'm American. And I got into, I mean, I've known I wanted to be an actor since I was 5 years old when I saw the little girl at the end of the Jungle Book, an animated character who didn't even have a name in the first, and we didn't even speak. She just sang. But I saw myself, I was 5, and I just saw myself. And sure, I had seen movies from India, but that didn't resonate with me because even though I was little and I knew the language, I was here and this is what I was familiar with. And so when I saw that little girl, I looked at my mom and I was like, that's what I want to do, you know. And I mean, the crazy thing about that is then decades later, my daughter is Mira in Disney's Mira Rural Detective. So that first thing that made me want to do this is, you know, showing up in such a huge way in our lives because of, you know, her being this historic, you know, she's made history as the first, you know, South Asian character of its kind. So, yeah, I mean, it's wrong to, and frankly, it doesn't matter that I came here when I was a baby. I could have immigrated here when I was 25. That's what the beauty of this country is, you know. I think we say melting pot, and it somehow makes it seem like we need to dissolve into each other, but it's the opposite, you know. It's like, here is a land where we're supposed to all get to come and be ourselves unapologetically and have empathy and really try to see one another and appreciate the unity in our diversity, you know. And when we're able to do that, we are our greatest selves. Like, you know, we are United States, you know, and we're not that right now, you know. But and I think that as an actor, yeah, it's always very frustrating, you know, to only be seen or to only be asked to do the accent. Now, look, I don't mind doing the accent. I was very clear with that. If I want to play characters that are real, like that are human and not a stereotype. Now, stereotypes also have some basic basis of truth. So it's like, it's my job as an actor to discern what is making fun of something versus what is really authentic. I mean, you know, if I am copying an auntie or an uncle or a parent, you know, someone else would see that and they're like, well, that's the stereotype. I was like, okay, well, there's some truth to that. But it's how you're doing it. It's your intention. And so I don't mind. I will do a role with an accent any day as long as it's a good character, you know. But I do love when I get to speak in my own voice as well.
And did your mom make you get your engineering degree first before pursuing acting, like every other immigrant parent?
No, and you know what's so wild about that is, you know, I went to NYU for acting, and on a surface way, I appreciated that. It's really now, in, you know, as I'm getting older, that I'm really appreciating the fact that they, like, we're talking 1995, 1996, you know, when I got my first jobs, and they're like, they had no way of knowing when they let me go to NYU that this was even a possibility. There was no one to go, started the Chowdhury, a couple of people, but there was no one really to go, yeah, this is a viable profession. They trusted in my talent. They trusted in the fact that, and they literally said, when I got into NYU, said, by God's grace, you got in. So it's our job to, I know people now whose parents forced them to do something else, but I really have taken that and run with it. I mean, in the sense that, well, my daughter obviously is an actor and she has my full support, her father's as well. But especially when she was in high school, I did a lot of talking with parents and young kids and saying, look, to parents, don't talk to your kids about their plan B, because an artist, all they hear is you don't think they're going to be successful. But what I tell them and I tell young people is, if you're an actor, you're going to need a day job. Unless you're like part of the less than 1%, you're going to need to have something to back it up. Now, the difference between when I was coming up, when we temped and worked as a hostess and did all these things, it was so scary because you were like, what if I'm not available for that one opportunity that comes, and who's going to replace me and all of these things. Now, especially young people have so much access to things they're really, really interested in with the internet and apps and everything else. Find something that you enjoy doing, even if it's not in the industry, so that you're not waiting. Because work begets work, whether you're working this or that. As long as you're keeping busy and you're in this like forward moving kind of energy while you're here present, I think that is what makes it possible. So I think my parents, supporting me like that and never saying, I mean, look, my father passed away a long time ago, but he was always very, very supportive. And my mom is as well, but it's scary for her. It's scary. Now I'm doing very well. I can support myself 100% with my acting, but it wasn't always like that. So our parents are scared. They want us to be safe. And when you're young, all you hear is that they don't believe in you. And so it's like, I think finding a way to navigate that conversation. So you're really learning how to communicate with each other, but it's important. It's important to find things that you like to do and to do them. You can't just pretend that you don't have to get a day job, or pretend that you're not doing a day job, and then one day magically you get this job and you're a famous actor. It's just not how it works, And I think that and I really do want to talk more to kids and parents about this, because it could completely change. Look, your kid will probably go and get a good job in the meantime if they know it's not about you not believing in them. Because when you're young, especially, that's all you want to prove them wrong, and you want to know that you have support. And so I'm really grateful, to my parents for that. It's like I know so many kids now who still have to do something else first in order for their parents to give their blessing.
No, because I often joke about it, because like I have a friend who's Persian and he's a filmmaker, and I was just like, oh, did you get your engineering degree first? He's like, yeah, I got my master's from MIT, and then I went into film. Everybody else, I have my degree in pharmaceuticals, and then I went into, I became a pharmacist, then I went into theater and so on. So that's why I often joke, like, we have 5 degrees. So for continental Asia, we have 5 degrees. And this is going from Turkey to Indonesia. And Turks, don't get mad. You only have one foothold in Europe, and that's Istanbul. The rest of it is Asia. You were called Asia Minor from the beginning. So, but it's some form of science. So whether it's a pharmacist, a biologist, chemist, doctor, dentist, whatever. So that, some form of science, law, engineering, business. And then the 5th one is what I've lovingly referred to as shame of the family. Until you make it, and then everybody loves you.
Right. And look, and here's the other thing, and I'm not going to put this all on parents, although I think it's rooted in that cultural thing, is that I know a lot of people who themselves want to do, other things first. And truth is, I know people who've done other things, had super successful careers, and then made the choice to go into, into their passion. So I think there's no wrong way to do it. It's just a wrong choice to make. It's just, if we can support our kids and know that no matter what they choose, we want them to be happy. And, like with my own daughter, I wish I could wipe away all of the things so she would never have to worry or, make mistakes and stuff. But I tell her all the time, it's like, given you a foundation and you're strong in that, and you're going to make mistakes, and and it's okay. It's okay. Make the mistakes, and know that you always have me to come back to. But, that's what I think my generation, our generation, Nessa didn't have, is that safety, knowing that we could go out in the world and mess up and come back and say, okay, well, maybe that wasn't the thing I really wanted to do. Maybe I just needed to try it. Yeah, I didn't have a plan B. I mean, I don't know what I would have done if this didn't work, because there was never, well, my only other plan B was I've only wanted to be a mother and be an actor. 4 and 5. That's when I knew I'm done, so in that sense, I'm an extremely successful life, because I'm doing both. But that was it. There was no other plan B. And there's nothing wrong with having one. Right. I think we have a lot of self-judgment, and I think there's no space for that, especially in art. Right. There's no room for judgment.
Well, you mentioned mental health earlier, and then, this business can beat you down. I remember Guillermo del Toro, in one of his speeches when we were at the celebration of Latino television and film, said, this industry will continue to beat you down. I've been in this industry for 30 years, and for 15 of them, I've been unemployed. Mm-hmm. That mindset. How do you find the balance then in keeping your mental health, of not falling into complete depression and self-doubt, and then not trying to counteract it with arrogance that's trying to come across as self-confidence?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's hard. I mean, I'm older now, so I mean, like I definitely, when I was younger in my 20s and stuff, dealt with it a lot more. But we can't define ourselves by any one thing we do. I'm grateful that I chose to be a mother, because I never gave up on my acting, not at all, while I was raising her. But I always had something that was most important to me, that, but that being said, had I stepped away from acting, I wouldn't have been as good of a mother as I was. It was very important. Look, I taught myself, as I taught my daughter, that if it's mine, it's mine. And if it's not, it's not. You tell yourself that enough, and you really learn to believe it, you will save yourself so much heartache. We don't want to, sometimes I've booked the auditions that I have completely effed up, that I thought that were just bad. Maybe not bad, but really kind of I have some stories, and I book them. And then there are auditions where I'm like, oh my God, I nailed this. This is great. And nothing, crickets. At this stage, I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe I'm exactly where I need to be. And it doesn't mean I don't get disappointed. I allow myself that. But the thing I've done is, in my life, in the work that I've done, my own inner work, is I've allowed space. This is my mental health work, is to not judge myself for feeling jealous or sad or any of these feelings. They're all human, It's when we don't give ourselves permission that those things start taking over and taking root in ourselves, and how we then interact with the world. And I just won't let myself do that anymore. I give myself the grace to feel disappointment, but ultimately come back to that was hers. Because if it was mine, nothing could have kept it from me. And, that, to someone who is starting out, and it can sound but I'll tell you, it's been years and years and years and years of working to that, and in the beginning, we suffer a lot when we don't choose. That's why I like talking to young people, because, and my daughter, for example, it's she knows so much more than I did at her age, because I've been there along the way to teach her. And we don't have to suffer, it's but it is a lot of suffering when we feel we deserve stuff, and we, don't get the way we want. And I don't know. Life doesn't, there's no way to know what is meant for us, but I think we can be unapologetic about our desire for it, and then accept, sometimes it goes our way and sometimes that it doesn't.
Right. And then you end up on a hit TV series like NCIS Los Angeles.
Best job I've ever had in my life. Just the best cast, the best crew. I mean, I want to cry every time I think about it. Just I love working there so much. I've been guest star on so many shows, and everyone's always very kind, but you always feel like you're the guest star on a show, and you're there for a day or two. And from the first day that I came onto that set, Daniela Rua was the director for that first episode. She made me feel at home. Everyone did, and then Gerald McCraney and I've become incredibly close. I love working on that show. And I love Shyla, and I have no idea where they're going with her, but I hope they just keep going with her. It's been so much fun. The best.
There is only one problem with NCIS Los Angeles.
Mm.
For a show that deals with the Navy and Navy police, you guys spend a lot of time downtown LA.
Well, I mean, I guess, that's a good point.
No, it's a fun series. It's been well over 300 episodes. The original NCIS is what, season 18, 19
20.
at this point?
No, season 20.
Wow.
Season
and I think
20.
you guys
I was
are
in episode 300 last year. Was episode 18 of last season was 300. I was super excited to be a part of that one. They've been around forever. So we're in season 14 now. It's a great franchise. Look, I mean, I don't know if you saw the little parody that they did for was it Jimmy Kimmel I think it was James Corden. They did we've done all the cases in Los Angeles. Now we've got to go to Cleveland. And they were like, if you haven't seen it, you should see it. It's hilarious. And
all right, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it's really funny. But look, it's a formula that works, but it's also not just formulaic. It's like every episode is different. You're getting to really know the characters. As someone who's new on the canvas, it's like I feel like they've written her from the beginning as she's a part of the team, even though she's coming back and forth from DC. And the chemistry between myself and Gerald McCraney is really palpable. It's like we just love working together, and it's so much fun. And I was terrified. I was like, I'm working with Gerald McCraney. This is Major Dad. This is like Simon and Simon. Like, what the heck? So I have to trust that we're doing something there. We're resonating, because I don't think they would keep having me do these scenes with this legend, if I wasn't able to match him. And it's cool because with Shyla, because she knows him from DC, they have a banter. They have a way of, she can give him shit like no one else can. Everyone else has a little bit of, I think it's loosening a little bit, but like as the series goes, but most people are a little scared to like go across the line, and she will just take the line and just step right over it as many times as she can, because she thinks it's funny to watch him fume. And I love that.
I know she can get away with it.
And she can get away with it, but she's also super smart. She trusts her completely, and knows that she does her job well, and that's the cool thing, is like when I'm watching an episode, and when you're taping it, if you don't know anything about how it works, you tape things out of order, it's like you never see the other people if you're not in scenes with them, and then at the end, the editing, the music, and everything, it's all together. And so sometimes I'll watch some of these episodes back, and I'm like, and of course I've read the script, but it's so different when you see it. And everyone's like, oh, well, ask Shyla this or Shyla that or Shyla. I'm like, oh, everyone's talking about Shyla. It's just, it's great. It's great, and God willing, it keeps going. But, I'm enjoying every moment of it.
So then who's the biggest practical joker on the set? Because my guess would be LL Cool J.
You know what? He's always playing music loud, which is super fun. Who's really funny is Terrence, who is our camera operator. He's hilarious. But I mean, never a more genuine, more loving cast and crew have I ever worked with. And I've worked with some fantastic people, but I'm talking everyone. And they treat everyone well. Like, whether you're stand-in, you're number one on the call sheet, or you're, technically at the bottom of the call sheet, you're treated with respect. And it's a lovely, lovely environment to work in.
Is it almost nerve-wracking coming onto a set for a show that's been established for so long? Like, you're the transfer student that just moved to town, and someone's got to show you where like the office is and
that first
gym class
day.
is.
The first day, the scenes where you're like, they're in the boat shed and you're talking, and so you're recording that by yourself. They've already recorded the other side. Or in like the last episode that I recorded, I went first, so it didn't even exist yet. And you're doing it with yourself, and I mean, for those who don't watch the show, I just say a lot of words. I mean, Ops is like, and this character is the information giver. You know, I'm saying information the audience is hearing for the first time. I'm saying information the team is hearing for the first time. And a lot of the time it's just grabbing out of nowhere. Like, I just have to learn this and have a real clear idea what I'm trying to say, but it's not like it's a conversation that you can kind of grab onto. So yeah, I mean, the whole first season, I was like, bring me back. I want to come back again and again, you know? And so when I knew I was coming back for the second season of season 14, you know, I was thrilled, and I definitely have more confidence. I mean, I don't think a lack of confidence showed on screen, but I mean, I was nervous, you know? And then there were scenes, like I did a scene, I think it was for episode 5 of this season, where we were in Ops, and it's already aired obviously, but and it was me and Todd, LL Cool J, Chris, and Joe McCraney. And we were just, you know, and it was almost all the dialogue was mine. And I'm talking to them and telling them, and there's some funny moments and everything. And Daniela Rua directed that episode. And it was awesome. But it was terrifying because, you know, you have to remember what you're doing and I'm saying, and and she's got the damn pad in her hand. And it's like, you know, and at one point we're waiting for the camera set up. I'm standing there, I'm talking to Todd, LL Cool J. And I'm like, you know, my 16-year-old self kind of can't believe I'm standing here with LL Cool J, Chris O'Donnell, and Gerald McCraney. And we just started laughing. You know, it's like, yeah, I mean, I pinch myself. I do not take a moment of it for granted. You know, I think the thing I'm most grateful for is I never gave up. You know, I feel like even though I've been doing this for nearly 3 decades, I feel like I'm at the beginning of my career. It's a different feeling too. You know, my daughter is grown. Has her own career and is doing, you know, I will always be her mama. I'll always be here for her 100%, but I don't have to make decisions based on her anymore, you know? And, so it's a new thing, you know? So I think that joy is also showing up in my work and in you know, and then it's just fun. It's just fun. It's fun to drive onto set and to get into hair and makeup and put on your costume and get to work with people and just, you know, I don't know. I get giddy. I love it.
You know, we all have our peaks and valleys and our interests in work. And sometimes you sit there and go, to hell with this, I'm done with it. But there's something that still keeps you there. Was there a to hell with it moment before the upshift in, you know, Sex Lives of College and then Fairly Odd Parents and so on?
I mean, I'll be very frank. I went through a really difficult decade, you know, because of end of a marriage and raising a child on my own and all those things. The biggest thing was just having other people think you should be making different choices in order to do what they think you need to do in order to survive, right? And I made some really difficult personal choices to keep doing this with the same fervor that I was always doing it, because I knew it was my life force. You're not going to always I mean, I had day jobs. There were times I had 3 day jobs. You know, it's like raising my kid, making sure she had what she needed was always a priority. So that, you know, I was going to not do those things, but you have to believe in yourself so much. You have to know that you're a working actor, even if you're doing scenes in an acting class. You know, you need to love this so much that you're not just doing it because you want the big paycheck and and frankly, you know, until I'm a series regular on a show, you know, you're not out of the woods. You're still working paycheck to check. It's a scary industry. And so you need to do it for the love of it. And Mac and I have these conversations, Gerald and I have these conversations, you know, it's like, are you willing to act even if no one else sees it? You know, I mean, that's a different level of love and passion. And so I can honestly say that I've had really, really down moments because, you know, we want it now. We want to feel and we want to be appreciated and seen and all these other things. But like I said, I've wanted to do this since I was 5 years old in a country that didn't represent me on screen. That was a dream bigger than myself. And I've never wavered from wanting to do this. Now, did I have doubts of whether it would happen? And sadness, feeling like, what if it doesn't? What if this dream was just that, a dream? Sure, because I'm human, but even if I lacked confidence in, my body, or when you're a girl, all the things that us girls think about, our face or whatever, whenever we felt insecure about things, or family stuff or whatever it was growing up, the one thing I never wavered on was my confidence in this. I knew that, I wasn't a great actor, but I was good. I knew that this was my gift and that I wanted to get better and I wanted to learn. And so that's an honest to God truth, my truth. And, so it just makes it even that much sweeter when I say, I'm just really proud of myself for not giving up on myself. Because the external, other people, circumstances and everything like that sometimes screams at you to maybe this isn't the right path. Maybe you need to get that full-time job doing something else.
And what would you tell 5-year-old self, that had the dream of what the reality could be? Like, what pitfalls to look for?
That's 5-year-old me. I know my mom gave me this picture a year ago or something, and I look at it and I kind of can't believe it. That's 5-year-old me. I mean, I think she was more confident than I am, to be honest with you. I take from her strength. She was unwavering, life wasn't always easy growing up, but I was unwavering. And I don't understand. I mean, I remember when I when I moved from Cincinnati, Ohio to upstate New York right after elementary school. And my Girl Scout troop took me to Surf Cincinnati, this water park, and they had a surprise going away party for me. And there was a cake, and there's a picture. I have a picture somewhere of it. And on the cake, it said, "Give our regards to Broadway." I was 10. So everyone always knew. I get messages from old friends. They were like, "We always knew this is what you were going to do." I find great comfort in knowing that I've never wavered and that it wasn't just in my head, and that and I'm not the only one. I'm not unique in that way, but I'm super grateful, So to 5-year-old self, I say thank you a lot for following the dream, I mean, you can have a dream, doesn't mean you actually do anything about it. I know there were times where my mom was like, "Well, what about journalism?" or something that seemed like it was like more grounded, no, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, when I told my dad about journalism, he was not too happy. So,
well, journalism seems like it's better than acting, right? It's like the steps. My father was a senior chemist, so that wasn't going to happen. But interestingly enough, that's kind of how this whole thing happened. I auditioned for a role that was more scientist, and words that I normally would never speak. And it was from that audition that I got Shyla.
That's fantastic. No, my dad was an engineer, so that's why,
Same, chemical engineer. Yeah.
Mine was a civil engineer. So yes, our parents did perpetuate the stereotypes of the 5 industries that I joked about, because that's what made you a success at that time.
But I think my dad knew also. I remember him saying once, my senior year of high school, "She's really smart. She's just not very good at math and science." And I think some of that is really stereotype. It's obviously pressure and everything. But when I went to college, NYU is a liberal arts school, so you've got to do take classes that you wanted to take. And I took genetics and physics and things, and I aced them. So I was like, wait, so it really wasn't me. It was them. It was all that pressure.
Right.
Okay. It was also me, but
Listen, we can blame our dads for a lot of things, so it's okay.
No, I you know what? My dad and my mom, I mean, look, it's never perfect. And it's only in hindsight, when you're old, as you get older, you can look back and really see them. They're humans, and they did the best they could from where they were. And I have such deep gratitude. Not only that, but I mean, my dad did not want to come to the States. He didn't want to come to America. You know, his best friend helped him get a scholarship without him even knowing. That's a crazy story. And he's here. I mean, you know, what would my life have been like? I was the first child raised outside of India in my immediate family on either side. What would have my life been like if I had been raised in India? Well educated.
Making 4-hour Bollywood movies.
I mean, honestly, I feel like this is true. I feel like I would have found my way to this path, but I'm so grateful to have, the best part about being here and being American is that, and being myself and being Indian is that I get to take from the best of both. You know, now both countries are driving me crazy right now politically. So I've kind of like, but culturally, being able to take the best of both worlds, what a gift.
Do you think, like, since I'm first generation, I was born here, but my parents are immigrants, you being an immigrant yourself, your daughter is now first generation. Well, I don't know if your ex-husband was born here or not, so.
No, he was born here, yeah.
Okay, so
he's a white American, yeah.
Okay, so your daughter would be second generation, or first generation on your half.
First generation, since technically I'm an immigrant.
Right.
I mean,
for those of us that have that understanding of what you're saying, like, if the old world was so great, we'd still be there. But taking the cultural aspects and what was best of the old world and mixing it with what's the best of the new world, do you think for someone, and I don't know your husband, so I'm not going to pick on him specifically, but someone, ex-husband, I'm sorry, your ex, I'm glad you cleared that up, and especially with that smirk, that's, so we see how that ended well.
No, all good. I'm just saying, X.
Okay, we're keeping it out there just in case if someone else wants to hit on you through Instagram.
Okay. Okay, stay on track.
Right. I'm teasing, but for someone like, let's say he's 5th, 6th, 7th generation American, that kind of lose that identity of this is all they know and this is all they have, and that appreciation is gone. Do you think for those of us that are first generation or immigrants or even second generation have that greater appreciation of what America is supposed to be versus people that are multi-generational American?
I mean, I hope so. My ex-husband, in some ways was more Indian than most Indian guys I knew. I mean, he had such a deep appreciation for the culture. So I think that's one of the reasons he and I connected. So I don't think I think it's such an individual thing. I know plenty of Indians who, myself included, I didn't really embrace it until I left home. I didn't embrace myself. It's hard to be one of the only brown kids in a school full of, black and white kids. It's like it's hard, you don't learn to embrace and love yourself, and it's like, but then once I did embrace, I don't know. I mean, look, I think that it's really just a matter of what is important to you. I think those of us present right now, because I mean, that encompasses people who are many generations in and versus new, are all, I think there's this new wave of appreciation and honoring ourselves, and I think it's really important for this country in particular to come back to that. We are already a land built on such pain and suffering, and people who want to deny that because they're afraid of being blamed. It's like, you're not at fault, but what you do with the information now and how you move forward. So I think that identity versus culture, all of these things get so mumbled up and jumbled up. So I don't know. I think generations, new first, second generations and things like that. I think my daughter's generation it's much easier for them to own it because they are allowed to be so many things, within gender and sexuality and culture and everything. There's just such a fluidity that even my generation wasn't allowed, even though we had the boomer parents that really were super strict, but they were not as bad as their parents who, like, there was no leeway, so it's like we keep growing and we keep moving. Now, I think that, my generation is the best generation because we had both. We had to dealing with that, but we also learned to live in this life where we're in this present day, where we're allowing our kids to be, be who they are and everything. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think it's really valuable and important to embrace, where we come from. And I deal with this now, it's like when I said earlier, I was kind of joking, but about being not thrilled about America and India right now, politically, that's really affected me. It's like, I like having pride in my countries, and I have not had pride. And I've been, in fact, deeply wounded by the lack of love being shown, by the majorities in these countries, and I don't want anything to do with it, and so I think when those things happen, I know that's when I dig deep to just my own personal identity and who do I see myself as. And again, back to what we were saying about acting, it's like not letting one thing identify you. It's like none of these things. At the end of the day, we are all human beings. And it's not easy to just come from that place, but no one said it was, we can moment to moment, day by day, it's like and what you said in the beginning, where we were talking about mental health and everything, just be kind to one another, and to ourselves, I think, and if we can just do that, then I think we're going to take the best from where we live and what we do and who we're with and what we are, and, and make a better world. And I still believe that's possible. I think that even though it looks really bad, I think that's the downfall of media, is that we can see everything, but we don't see everything. We only see what's sensationalized and here. We don't see the day-to-day, how people who are of different faiths and religions and all that stuff actually live with each other. And, and so.
Well, I can ease your nerves a little bit about American politics if you like.
Oh, well, I love politics. That's the thing, right? It's like, I know a lot about politics, and I love politics, but I also hate politics.
But here's the thing. Once you realize that political rallies and professional wrestling both started on the carnival circuit, and you start seeing the parallels between pro wrestling and politics, and the only difference is one's in their underwear and the other one's in a suit and tie, you'll realize that it's the same shtick and it's the same show. So kick back, grab your popcorn, and don't let your emotions run wild with it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I love it. It's hilarious.
Yeah. So if you watch Monday Night Raw or C-SPAN, it's the same guys cutting promos, just in a different style.
I was just envisioning your congresspeople in their t-shirts and underwear and stuff like that.
Yeah, this season, Team A is the good guys and Team B is the bad guys. I don't know which side you're on, if you're on Team Red or Team Blue. And then in 5 years, it's going to flip. And then, Team B becomes the bad guys and Team A becomes the good guys, and so on and so forth. So,
I mean, I just want to be on the side of people who care about people, and want to do something. It's like, I don't care what color they are, it's just like, but if, it's unfortunate that people have just forgotten how to be kind, and and I am very leaning in one direction strongly. That's not, I'm not ashamed of saying that, but but those, again, these identifiers, it's like these labels, we get so stuck on those, and we forget. I mean, even in look, I was like, what was it? John Boehner was talking about Nancy Pelosi the other day when she was like gifted the picture, the portrait and everything. And I thought, good God, no one on the red side would say a damn good thing about Nancy Pelosi right now,
And it's funny because nobody on the blue side would say anything nice about John Boehner. So it's very strange how it works.
But here's the thing, though. It's like, you do see, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into that's not what this is all about. But I agree. I mean, no side is perfect, but sometimes too, I think their detriment, Democrats are willing to see possibility of something good, that could happen. And I feel like Republicans don't do that. It's like, it's but they're really good at it. They're really good at knowing what they want and going after it, even if it's not for the betterment of everyone. And, I might have lost half your audience by saying that, but it's like, but it's the, at the end of the day, we should have discernment. And when we listen to a politician or we watch something or whatever it is, we need to ask ourselves, is this hurting or is this helping?
Yeah,
If we
like I
did
said,
that,
see, to me, it's all pro wrestling. So on camera, they're fighting each other. As soon as the cameras are off and the press is gone, they're all having dinner together. So
at least it used to be that way. I don't know if it's like that anymore, but I
they're
do
still
think
doing the horse trading together and going to the same parties and going through their underground tunnels, pretending like they don't like each other until until the lights are off.
it's really, I mean, it's kind of sick, because it's because of what they create on the, using their pro wrestling fake thing. It's like it's scary, but that's why at the end of the day, I'm not a politician. I'm an artist. Although I take my art quite seriously, I still at the end of the day want people to think and laugh and have fun and escape a little, but not too much. Just will awaken their. There's something really joyful about being able to turn something on and let yourself be present to another person's experience. I think that's one of the things I love about acting so much, is that it's an empathy creator. It's the possibility of creating empathy,
Well, Chuck
And
Jones, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was like, that I think is the thing we're missing in politics and everything else, is true empathy. Empathy isn't about, oh, we understand each other because we're in each other's shoes. Real empathy is being able to look at another person's point of view, even when you disagree with them. You may not agree with them. You may hate their point of view, but being able to see it. Then it becomes about how you create a solution to fixing this. You know what to fight for, versus it being about blame.
Well, if we get the lobbyists out, then that'll be a lot easier for us all.
Yeah, I don't even know how. That stuff. I mean, just thinking about how all that stuff works is exhausting.
Yeah. I often joke, I said, I can't be a politician because I'm too honest. Like, I'll be more than willing to be upfront on whose money I'm taking. And be like in a NASCAR jumpsuit showing who all my sponsors are. And then in 10 years, as my career is on a decline, repent and switch sides or join the independent side, and then take new money and new sponsors on and put that on the jumpsuit.
Well, I mean, it's honest.
Yeah. That's why I'll never win, because I'm too honest about who's sponsoring me. Yeah. No, but you mentioned being an artist and how you want people to laugh and enjoy it, and you take your craft seriously. Chuck Jones, the great animator himself, said, "Always take your work, but never take yourself, or never take yourself, but always take your work seriously." I'm paraphrasing at this point because I don't want to get it wrong. Do you feel that way as well? Like, you take your work very seriously, but you enjoy who you are and you can laugh at yourself?
Yeah, and I mean, I couldn't always laugh at myself. I mean, no, I mean, I actually often didn't laugh at myself, took things personally, and you can't take things personally in this business, especially. Again, it goes back to the identity. If you are identifying with booking a job, frankly, you're just not going to book as many jobs as you're not going to book. It's not healthy to identify like that. So no, I take the work very seriously, but taking the work seriously means showing up for acting class, doing, when you're not working, even when you're not on set, doing, being creative, doing the things that nurture that part of your spirit. And yeah, it's really important not to, I think a lot of this comes with age and wisdom, but it also an experience. But that's not, experience doesn't equal age. There are young people who have had, careers happen relatively quickly, like big careers happen relatively quickly, who had to learn also to realize that not everything happens like this. It's like it might come really fast and then they have to just experience the lull. I'm proud that I had to hustle, but I also am proud that my hustle has made it less necessary for my daughter to have to hustle, so
but it makes that victory a little more sweeter, doesn't it?
It does. But it also, it's like, but again, back to the whole not wanting, her mistakes are hers, her journey is hers, so she's gonna thrive in her own way. But just as I am on the backs of the people who came before me, so is she. And I think having that respect for everyone who's contributed, is really, it's really, really important. And so, yeah, work hard, and but work fun. It's like I think that's the part that's missing in so many things. It's just like, if it's not fun, don't do it. And it doesn't mean the work isn't hard, because it's like my production company is called Art, Heart, Love Productions. Art, because that's what we create. Heart, because it takes courage to be an actor. It takes a hell of a lot of courage to face rejection more than you will ever face success, and to not think that you are a failure. That is not something that just magically happens. You have got to work at that, but that's part of taking care of your mental health and surrounding yourself by people and not being afraid to express your disappointments, but also not identifying yourself by your disappointments, not sitting with it forever. Sitting with it for an afternoon or a day or two is a lot different than being depressed for weeks on end because you're not able. But why? I mean, I've been there and I've done that, but it doesn't serve, so I honestly, even just talking about all of this, I'm just so grateful to be here doing what I love, and looking back at all the times that I wasn't doing it. That I didn't just say, oh, well, but here's the thing. Here's the beauty of that. If at any moment I had stopped, it wasn't the dream. It was a different, and I think that's a really big part of this whole thing, is knowing when to let go of anything, whether it's I want this job or this goal or this dream or whatever it is, because our dreams evolve, our goals grow, break apart, become other things, and all that stuff. And so I know for me, it's come with age and experience and everything else, but I think it's really about being present to where you're at and being honest with yourself. And I think you could do that at any age, really.
I love it. Kavi, I'm going to leave you with this. Since you made an independent film where you played 5 different characters, and it was a short film.
Yes.
Let's say hypothetically, the budget comes in, you now have $50 million to make a dream project. What would this be? Would it be a comedy? Would it be a drama? Would it be semi-autobiographical? Like, what type of project would you be willing to make with $50 million?
I would like to play a epic, first of all. I mean, I've literally been talking this week about a project that I would love to create. An epic film. I mean, I love romance. I love big scale. I love multi-generational stories. I would love to be able to play a character in different versions of, you may not even be the same character, but different generations of a person, through the story. And I've said this many times before, but I think the more specific we are with our storytelling, the more universal it becomes. And so, I'm just interested in telling stories that resonate with some aspect of myself. I love telling stories about people I have nothing in common with at all. But the truth is you have something in common with everybody. You just have to find it, and I think about getting really, really clear with what those commonalities are what makes it super universal. And so I want to make a big epic romance, that goes over generations, and play, multiple characters and be able to, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
I dig it. Where can we find you on social media if we want to connect with you?
Sure. On Instagram, I'm Kavi Ladnier 1111. Facebook, I'm Kavi Ramachandran Ladnier. On Twitter at Kavi Ladnier, but I literally barely check it. And my film is now at neverfilm.com, and my website's kaviladnier.com.
Kavi, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I thought we had a fun chat, and I really am pleased that I got to get to know you a little bit.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time. I had a lot of fun.